You're listening to the Ward Weekly Podcast with our host, Walter Latham, and our co-host, Michelle Sweeney McCombs. Voices in society impacting the culture.
New York's own BD3, B as in boy, D as in David 3. And I'd like to thank them for providing the intro and outro music for this podcast.
Welcome to the Ward Weekly. This is Michelle Sweeney McCombs. We welcome today Miss Donna Hairston of Diva with Depression. She will discuss her daily walk with depression, the good, the bad, and the worst, and how she manages her daily life.
Hey, good morning. Good afternoon now to you and Walter.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
How are you guys?
Happy to hear you. We're fine. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me.
What would you like us to call you, Dee or Donna?
Donna. You've known me too long for Dee.
I know.
I got a daughter named Dee, so
yes, Walter has a daughter named Dee.
I get stressed.
Oh, okay. I listen to either one.
Well, okay. Welcome, Donna.
Thank
Donna.
You.
We're looking forward to hearing about your blog, how you advocate for the mental health issues that we're dealing with on a daily basis in the Black community. Welcome.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Yeah.
Okay. I'm Donna Hairston. I've been living with depression pretty much all my life. In 2016, I decided to start blogging as therapy for myself to write about the things that I was going through living with this mental illness. I had my first breakdown in 2006, and it got progressively worse over the years. Of course, there were some ups, some highlights, some ups, but it had gotten progressively worse. And I noticed that when I was trying to look for help, the help in our community was sparse. So I decided to start writing about my daily struggles with it, my struggles with trying to find health care, my struggles with trying to find resources, and just the ins and outs, because a lot of people think that they're alone in this fight. And by me telling the nitty gritty about what it's really like to live with this, it shows people that they're not alone.
Wow, that's incredible.
And not crazy.
Mm-hmm. So, wow. When did you realize you had depression? Like, what are the signs of it for someone to notice?
I want to say that I probably had some sort of depression all of my life. But when I was 16, my doctor diagnosed me with an ulcer. And It was then that he said, I think that it's probably stress and anxiety related, and that, you may have a little bit of depression. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't until after I had my oldest daughter that, of course, postpartum started creeping in. Right. And that's when I went to therapy for the first time. And then I started to realize that my issue was a little bit deeper than just postpartum. So after I had my second daughter at 31, that's when I realized that it was extreme. And then when I relocated to Charlotte, North Carolina from Brooklyn, I was sort of isolated. So that's when it became clear that there was some serious struggles going on.
Right.
I think I started to realize that I was moody a lot, sleeping a lot, or not sleeping a lot, gaining weight, because, when you're feeling down, of course, a chocolate bar is the perfect antidote. But it wasn't until the year 2005 is when I started to notice that I stopped taking care of myself. I wasn't, concerned about my appearance. I wasn't combing my hair. I wasn't, doing any of those things. I was just going to work, taking care of my babies, and coming home. And then I had started getting lost going to work. I was starting to get forgetful.
Wow.
Falling down a lot. And so I thought that, and the doctor thought initially that I had vertigo. but then she realized that it was much more. So between 2005 and 2006 is when it was at its worst.
I do have a question though. Could you describe some of, for people that don't know about depression, or never sought out any type of assistance, professional assistance about depression? Could you tell us what are some of the early symptoms of depression? And so that, because a lot of people may be depressed and don't know, or they got younger family members and they don't know. So could you just describe some of the early symptoms and just, scale it up from that point?
Okay. Well, since I'm an old lady, I can't remember when when I started.
I know, you're just making me feel good.
But I can tell you that both of my daughters suffer from depression. So I started to notice symptoms in both of them around 14 or 15. My oldest daughter was sleeping a lot. She started withdrawing. She would not go out anymore. Wow. She wouldn't talk to her friends anymore. The only time that she would really go out is just with her sister and I. Going to school, she couldn't concentrate anymore, and both of my kids were A students. So when I started to notice that she couldn't do her homework anymore, really, or I had to help her do projects and things of that nature, that's when I knew that it was pretty much more than teenage angst. My youngest daughter is more like me, so she pretty much wears her mask well. So she the same symptoms. Of course, when you're teenagers, I know when I came home from school, I had to take a nap, but I got up and I did what I had to do. But with them, they would come home from school and I wouldn't see them until the next morning if I didn't wake them up for dinner.
Wow.
Or closing themselves off in their room. Mainly, I think the main thing with teenagers is when you start to notice that they're not socializing with their friends anymore.
That's a sign.
Not talking anymore. That's a sign right there, because they're always on the phone or they're always on social media, or like my oldest daughter was like, oh, I don't want to hang out with her anymore, we're not friends anymore. Or when I started to notice coming over much anymore, that's when I knew we were leading into something more. Now as far as I'm concerned, my biggest thing was I'm an avid reader. Michelle, you know that. I used to be able to book every 2 days. I couldn't read a book anymore. I couldn't even read a magazine. My concentration level was so bad. Appearance, when you start to notice that everybody has a bad hair day. You know that. You're a hairstylist. Yeah. And thank God that you're my sister. So when I was in New York, you would know when I was, not taking care of myself. But I think that when you start to notice that, and as an adult, someone's appearance changes, their color changes. Right. You start to notice that their skin is a little darker, or ashy. The
personality as well.
Eyes. Yeah. Withdrawn, of course. Some people are just introverts, but some people, like you fuss at me all the time. I don't answer the phone. I don't text. My house used to be the hub for parties, having company. I stopped doing things that I enjoy. Baking is one of my loves. Cooking is one of my loves. I stopped doing that. So those are the things. Those are the things when you start to notice that people just change their whole way of being.
Right.
Because one of the things in the Black community is that we have there's a stigma around, and it's broader than just within the Black community, but specifically within the Black community, it's a little bit more magnified, where we don't go and seek help for mental illness.
Right. We don't believe in going to get therapy.
Exactly.
That's one stigma with old school. I know my parents were one that everything stays in the house.
Exactly.
You just don't talk about it.
Right. And that's one of the things that I talk about all the time, is that in our communities, the Black and brown communities, everything stays in the house, and it's just for different reasons. One, it's if you have a mental illness, that's a sign of weakness for us. Right. Black women are superwomen. Black men are supermen. You don't want to, think that you're less than. Also, if you open the doors to your house, the community looks in. And you don't know where, you don't know who's helping or who's hurting you. So rather than open your doors, you'd rather keep it quiet.
Yeah, you keep your business to yourself. That's how my family is. Yes.
Yeah.
My mom used to say all the time, she was depressed for years.
Right.
And she said if she let it get in her way, she would have never been able to raise her family.
Exactly.
So she just kept it moving.
Exactly.
And
Guys,
she didn't let it get the best of it.
I would get up in the morning. I would take my kids, if I had to take them to school or put them on the bus. Then I would take my depression medication, sleep all day or go to the doctor. And then at 3:30, when they got home, my life started then. And I'd start the same thing all over again. And years later, I still do the same thing today. If I have something to do, I sort of shove it down and keep going because that's our nature.
Yeah, and you don't realize how much it absorbs your daily life.
It does.
So much time can go by. I know for a fact my brother suffers with mental illness. Donna knows that, and he can go days, which Donna has experienced, where you're in the house and you don't even realize what time it was. You haven't bathed, you haven't brushed your teeth, you didn't get anything accomplished because you let that absorb your whole daily life.
Right.
Stay tuned for part 2 of our interview with Diva with Depression on the next episode of the Walt Weekly with your host, Walter Latham, and co-host, Michelle Sweeney McCombs. Thank you for joining the Walt Weekly. We can be found at Facebook, the Walt Weekly Podcast, Twitter, at Walt Weekly, Instagram, the Walt Weekly, and www.thewaltweekly.podbean.com. Please like, follow, and share.